The Minnesota Timberwolves. A franchise that has been steeped in losing seasons and bad draft picks. They've missed on a lot of draft picks, drafted the wrong guy. There was one point where they drafted 2 point guards instead of Steph Curry. Not a great look for the franchise, but their luck is starting to turn around as superstar Anthony Edwards has them and a colorful cast of talent to the number 1 seed in the West. They've held that spot this season longer than they've held it in their entire franchise history. But that word right there, history, is the word of the day, because today we're going to go back to 1989 when the Timberwolves first started, and we're going to take an in-depth look at their entire franchise history up to this point. So join me and Sam as we go all the way back then to find out all about the joy and the pain and the suffering that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota's expansion team was officially dubbed the Timberwolves in December of 1986. This was nearly 3 years before the first game would be played on November 3rd, 1989, and 4 months before the NBA even officially granted Minnesota a team. After original owners Harvey Radner and Marv Wolfenson submitted a formal expansion proposal to the NBA Board of Governors in October of 1986. They held a Name the Team contest that drew 6,076 entries from across the state, featuring 1,284 different proposed nicknames. The 2 most common submissions, the Timberwolves and the Polars, were deemed finalists, and the 842 city councils in Minnesota were asked to submit their vote for the winner. Timberwolves was selected by a 2-1 margin. Timberwolves was a fitting name for Minnesota's new team, as the state is home to the largest wolf population in the United States, and the International Wolf Center, a comprehensive wolf research facility, is located in Ely, Minnesota. Similar to the naming contest, the Timberwolves held a public contest to select the team's first logo. After receiving over 2,600 submissions, some coming from as far away as Alaska and Norway, the team settled on a design submitted by Mark Thompson of Austin, Minnesota. Original team president Bob Stein described the winning submission as aggressive but not sinister. The logo was first unveiled to the public on an oversized $20,000 check that the team donated to the United Way on September 17, 1987. The Timberwolves would then hire former University of Minnesota Golden Gophers men's basketball coach Bill Musselman to lead the new franchise. And in 1989 NBA draft, Musselman selected Jerome James "Pooh" Richardson from the University of California, Los Angeles, with the 10th overall pick for their first game, meaning he was the first ever draft pick by the Minnesota Timberwolves. That right belongs to Pooh Richardson. The Timberwolves then debuted on November 3rd, 1989, losing to the Seattle Supersonics on the road 106-94. 5 days later, they made their home debut at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, losing to the Chicago Bulls 96-84. 2 nights later, on November 10th, the Timberwolves got their first win, beating the Philadelphia 76ers at home 125-118. The Timberwolves, led by Tony Campbell with 23.2 points per game, went on to a 22-60 record, finishing 6th place in the Midwest Division, playing in the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, which is where the Vikings and Twins also played. The expansion Timberwolves set an NBA record at the time, drawing over 1 million fans to their home games. This included a crowd of 49,551 on April 17, 1990, which saw the Timberwolves lose to the Denver Nuggets 99-88 in the final home game of the season. The next season, the team moved into their permanent home, the Target Center, which is where they still are, and improved somewhat, finishing 29-53. However, they fired their head coach Bill Musselman. They fared far worse in the 91-92 season under Musselman's successor, ex-Celtics coach Jimmy Rogers, finishing with an NBA worst 15-67 record. Looking to turn the corner, the Wolves hired former Detroit Pistons general manager Jack McCloskey to the same position. But even with the notable first-round selections such as Christian Laettner and Isaiah Ryder, the Timberwolves were unable to duplicate McCloskey's Detroit Bad Boy success in the Twin Cities, finishing 19-63 and 20-62 the next 2 seasons, One of the few highlights from that era was when Target Center served as host of the 1994 All-Star Game, where Ryder won the slam dunk contest with his between-the-leg East Bay Funk dunk. As winning basketball continued to elude the Wolves, Radner and Wolfenson nearly sold the team to New Orleans in 1994 before the NBA owners rejected the proposed move. Eventually, Glenn Taylor bought the team and named Kevin McHale general manager. The Wolves finished 21-61 in 1994, and the future looked bleak. However, that would all change in the 1995 draft as the Timberwolves selected high school standout Kevin Garnett in the first round, 5th overall, and Flip Saunders was named head coach. Christian Laettner was traded along with Sean Rooks to the Atlanta Hawks for Andrew Lang and Spud Webb. Also, first-round pick Donyell Marshall was traded the previous seasons for Golden State's forward Tom Gugliotta. These trades paved the way for rookie Kevin Garnett to become the go-to inside player. Garnett went on to average 10.4 points per game in his rookie season as the Wolves finished 5th place in the Midwest Division with a 26-56 record. Amid a display of lasers and smoke at the Mall of America's main rotunda, the Wolves turned the page on the franchise's expansion days by unveiling this new look May 18, 1996. Owner Glenn Taylor described the new logo, designed by LA-based Mennick Design Group, as steps towards being more competitive and more aggressive. The new design featured a metallic color scheme and a more ferocious, intimidating wolf. In 1996, the Wolves added another star player in the draft, trading Ray Allen to the Milwaukee Bucks for the rights to Stephon Marbury, the 4th overall pick. The addition of Marbury had a positive effect for the entire team as Garnett and Gugliotta became the first Wolves to be selected to the All-Star team. Gugliotta and Garnett led the Timberwolves in scoring as the team made the playoffs for the first time in franchise history with a record of 40-42. However, in the playoffs, the Timberwolves made a quick exit as they were swept by the Houston Rockets in 3 straight games. In 1997, Garnett and Marbury established themselves as two of the brightest rising stars in the NBA. Garnett averaged 18.5 points per game and 9.6 rebounds, while Marbury averaged 17.7 points and dished out over 8 assists a game. Despite losing lead scorer Tom Gugliotta for half the season, the Timberwolves went on to post their first winning season at 45-37, making the playoffs for a second straight season. After dropping Game 1 of the playoffs on the road to Seattle, the Timberwolves won their first postseason game in Game 2, winning in Seattle 98-93. As the series shifted to Minnesota, the Timberwolves had an opportunity to pull an upset as they won Game 3 by a score of 98-90. However, the Wolves dropped Game 4 at home, and the Sonics went on to win the series in 5 games. In 1998, a year after signing Kevin Garnett to a 6-year, $126 million contract, the Timberwolves were then used as the poster child of irresponsible spending, as the NBA endured a 4-month lockout that wiped out much of the season. With an already cap-heavy payroll, the Timberwolves let Tom Gugliotta walk, partially because the team wanted to save money in order to sign Stephon Marbury to a long-term contract, and in part because Gugliotta did not want to play with the younger player. This move proved unsuccessful, however, as Marbury wanted to be the biggest star on the team and subsequently forced an in-season trade by refusing a contract extension. In the 3-team midseason deal that sent Marbury to the New Jersey Nets, the Timberwolves got Terrell Brandon in return and a first-round pick in 1999, which turned out to be the 6th pick. The Wolves made the playoffs for the 3rd straight season by finishing 4th place with a 25-25 record. In the playoffs, the Timberwolves were beaten by the eventual champion San Antonio Spurs in 4 games. In 1999, the Timberwolves drafted Wally Szczerbiak with the 6th pick in the draft. He now goes on to despise Tyrese Halliburton, but he did have a solid season, finishing 3rd on the team in scoring with 11.6 points per game. Led by Kevin Garnett, who averaged 22.9 points and 11.8 rebounds, the Timberwolves had their first 50-win season and finished 3rd place with a record of 50-32. However, in the playoffs, the Wolves again fell in the first round, losing to the Portland Trail Blazers in 4 games. The The Wolves would then go on to open the 1999-2000 regular season with 2 home games against the Sacramento Kings at the Tokyo Dome on November 6th and 7th. However, tragedy would strike the Minnesota Timberwolves as in the summer of 2000, guard Malik Sealy was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. Sealy's number has been retired ever since. The number 2 jersey, memorialized with Sealy's name on the banner hanging from the rafters at Target Center, is the only jersey retired by the Timberwolves at this time. Also in that season, free agent deal signed by Joe Smith was voided by the NBA, who ruled the Timberwolves violated proper procedure in signing the contract. The league stripped the Timberwolves of 5 draft picks, but it was eventually reduced to 3 first-round picks, 2001 through 2004. The league also fined the Timberwolves $3.5 million and suspended general manager Kevin McHale for 1 year. Smith essentially signed with the Detroit Pistons before re-signing with the Timberwolves in 2001. But despite those setbacks, the Timberwolves made the playoffs for the 5th straight season with a 47-35 record in the playoffs. The Timberwolves were eliminated in the first round again by the San Antonio Spurs in 4 games in the spring of 2001.
The start of the new millennium saw the Timberwolves in a strong position. The team had a solid core, with Kevin Garnett at the helm. Garnett, he was a versatile power forward, he was in his prime, and his performance on the court was nothing short of spectacular. From 2000 to 2004, the Timberwolves were a regular fixture in the playoffs. They were strong, consistent, and they were a force to be reckoned with. But a trend that continued on into the new millennium was the Wolves continued to struggle to get out of the first round. Garnett needed more help in the playoffs, and help is what he got. In the 03-04 season, it was a standout year for the team. The Wolves picked up some very important pieces in helping Kevin Garnett, and one of these pieces was traded along with Irvin Johnson to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Joe Smith and Anthony Peeler following the 03 NBA draft. This player was Sam Cassell. Cassell had a career year for the Wolves, being named an All-Star, putting up almost 20 points and 7 assists per game. But not only did he make a splash with Cassell, they went out and got Latrell Sprewell in a 4-team trade between the Wolves, Knicks, 76ers, and the Hawks. Sprewell helped the team in scoring, putting up an extra 17 points per, and Garnett was named the NBA's most valuable player, an honor that was well-deserved. His leadership, coupled with his exceptional skill on the court, led the Timberwolves to being the best team in the Western Conference and to the playoffs yet again. But this time, things felt different. The newly put-together Wolves were looking good. The Denver Nuggets were the first opponent in the playoffs, and they took care of business. A 4-1 series win. The first series win in franchise history. They took the momentum into the next round, where the Kings gave them a run for their money. They took them to Game 7, and the Wolves clawed their way to a victory and on to the Western Conference Finals, their best finish in franchise history. However, the run was cut short by the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that was at the height of its own success. They lost 4-2 in a series, and you start to wonder what happened. Well, Sam Cassell decided to celebrate a tough shot against the Sacramento Kings, and this dance right here, the big balls dance, injured Sam Cassell, leading him to missing 3 games against the Lakers. Many think that if it weren't for this dance, the Wolves were for sure title winners. But the Lakers capitalized and took the Wolves down. Following this high point, the Timberwolves entered a period of struggle. In 2007, the team made a decision that would change the course of its future. They traded Kevin Garnett to the Boston Celtics. This marked the beginning of a rebuilding phase for the Timberwolves. The team struggled to find consistency on the court and went through numerous coaching changes. They were unable to make the playoffs, a stark contrast to their performance just a few years prior. Going into the 08 season, the Memphis Grizzlies drafted a power forward that sparked the interest in Minnesota. A new Kevin was on the block, and it was Kevin Love instead. Although Love was putting up all-star numbers in seasons for Minnesota, it just wasn't enough to get the ball rolling again. And in 2011, the Timberwolves drafted point guard Ricky Rubio, a player known for his creativity and vision on the court. Rubio's arrival brought a spark to the team, and fans hoped that this would be the turning point for the Timberwolves. However, despite Rubio and Love's efforts, the team was unable to break their playoff drought. Then in 2014, another significant event occurred. The Timberwolves traded their star player Kevin Love to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This marked the end of an era for the Timberwolves and signaled the start of another rebuilding phase. The Timberwolves experienced a series of ups and downs. They went from the highs of playoff runs and MVP seasons to the lows of significant trades and rebuilding years. It was a period of great change for the team, filled with both triumphs and challenges. And through it all, the Timberwolves showed their resilience and determination.
The 2014 and 15 season marked a new era for the Timberwolves, and a lot of fans kind of started watching around this point. Beginning with the Kevin Love trade, Flip Saunders was promoted to head coach, making it his second stint with the Timberwolves after coaching the team from 95 to 2005. The Timberwolves started the new season with a 105-101 loss to the Memphis Grizzlies, with Wiggins making his debut. The team recorded its first win the following game, a 97-91 victory over the Detroit Pistons. On November 12, 2014, the Timberwolves played an international home game at Mexico City Arena against the Houston Rockets. The Timberwolves had an abysmal record of 16-66 for the season and missed the playoffs for the 11th consecutive year. Despite this, Wiggins was selected as the NBA Rookie of the Year, the first player in franchise history to be so honored. Draft pick Zach LaVine gained league notoriety after winning the slam dunk contest. LaVine and Wiggins, dubbed the Bounce Brothers, were seen as being the future of the franchise. But due to having the worst record in the NBA for the 14-15 season, the Timberwolves had the highest chance at the first pick, 25% to be exact. At that night, the 2015 NBA Draft Lottery, May 19th, the Timberwolves received the first overall pick. This is the first time in franchise history they had the number overall pick. On June 25th, the Timberwolves would go on to select Karl Anthony Towns, and they would also acquire Minnesota's own Tyus Jones through a trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The 2015 season also saw the return of Kevin Garnett. In February, Garnett, at the time with the Brooklyn Nets, waived his no-trade clause to enable a trade back to Minnesota, which sent Thaddeus Young to Brooklyn. In his first game back, Garnett resumed wearing the number 21 jersey that had not been worn by any of the Timberwolves players since his departure, and the team would go on to defeat the Washington Wizards 97-77 at Target Center. More tragedy would strike the Timberwolves though, as Saunders, who we mentioned was named the head coach for his second stint in Minnesota, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. As a result, during his recovery, he would delegate his coaching position over to assistant coach and former NBA Coach of the Year winner, Sam Mitchell. On October 25, 2015, Saunders died at the age of 60. Mitchell took over as head coach, and in honor of Saunders, the team announced they would wear a patch reading "Flip" on their uniforms for the duration of the 2015-16 season. Then, in 2016, the Tom Thibodeau saga began. On April 20th, 2016, the Timberwolves agreed to sign Tom Thibodeau to be their head coach and president of basketball operations. He was previously an assistant coach for the team from 1989 to 1991. On September 23, 2016, Kevin Garnett announced his retirement after 21 seasons in the NBA. He expressed interest in playing one more year for the Timberwolves, but felt his knees would be unable to hold up for the duration of the season. The Timberwolves ended their season with a 31-51 record, having only a 2-game improvement from their previous season. The last game of that season, though, April 11, 2017, the Timberwolves unveiled their new logo, just the second major overhaul of brand identity in franchise history. Created by Mississippi-based design expert Rodney Richardson of Rare Designs, the new logo features a howling wolf facing forward, the iconic North Star, and the new Timberwolves wordmark featuring the team rune A. The logo's color scheme reflects a sense of place, with each color in the palette tied to part of Minnesota landscape. Colors include midnight blue, aurora green, frost white, moonlight gray, and lake blue. Then in 2018, the arrival of Jimmy Butler happened. On June 22, 2017, the Timberwolves acquired Jimmy Butler and the 16th overall pick in the 2017 draft in a trade for Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and the 7th overall pick in the draft used to select Lauri Markkanen. This trade marked the end of LaVine and Wiggins' duo dubbed Bounce Bros. Later that night, the Timberwolves selected center Justin Patton with the 16th overall pick in the draft, and I don't think I ever saw him play. Later, the team added Taj Gibson, Jeff Teague, and Jamal Crawford and Derrick Rose during free agency. The Timberwolves ended their season with a 47-35 record, which became their first winning season since 2004 and 2005. They also secured the last spot in the playoffs on the final day of the regular season with a 112-106 win over the Denver Nuggets. The 2017-18 season also ended the longest streak without a playoff appearance at 13 seasons. The Timberwolves would be eliminated in the first round of the playoffs by the Houston Rockets in a gentleman's sweep 5 games. On November 12, 2018, the Timberwolves traded disgruntled star Butler and Justin Patton to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and a 2022 second-round draft pick. On January 6, 2019, Thibodeau was fired as head coach and president of basketball operations. After Thibodeau's firing, it was announced that Ryan Saunders would serve as the interim head coach until a permanent head coach could be found. On May 1st, it was announced the Timberwolves hired Gerson Rosas, who previously served as the Houston Rockets executive vice president of basketball operations, as their new president of basketball operations. And on May 20th, after conducting interviews with several candidates, the Timberwolves announced that Ryan Saunders had been hired to a multi-year deal to become the team's permanent head coach, removing his intern status. With Rosas' hiring, the Timberwolves also made several front office changes in the organization. The Timberwolves held both a first and second round pick in the 2019 draft. The 11th pick, which was Cam Johnson, along with Dario Saric, was traded to the Suns in exchange for the 6th pick in Jared Culver, a small forward from Texas Tech. With the 43rd pick, the Timberwolves selected Jalen Noel, a point guard from Washington. On February 6, 2020, the Timberwolves traded Andrew Wiggins to the Golden State Warriors for Karl Anthony Towns' longtime friend D'Angelo Russell. At the season end, the Timberwolves got the first overall pick, and with that pick, they took superstar Anthony Edwards out of Georgia. Then, on February 21, 2021, head coach Ryan Saunders was fired, and Toronto Raptors assistant coach Chris Finch was hired to replace him. The Timberwolves finished the season with a 23-49 record and missed the playoffs. In April 2021, the Timberwolves announced that owner Glenn Taylor had reached a deal with Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez to sell the team. Lore and Rodriguez will become majority owners over the course of 2 years. On July 21, 2021, it was announced that Lore and Rodriguez had purchased 20% of the team. They purchased 20% more in 2022 and will purchase 40% more in the coming seasons. At the time, they will be the majority owners of the club. The transaction also includes ownership in the Timberwolves' WNBA sister club, the Minnesota Lynx. The deal values the team at $1.5 billion. In the offseason, the Wolves traded guard Ricky Rubio to the Cleveland Cavaliers for forward Taurean Prince. The Wolves then acquired guard Patrick Beverley in exchange for Juancho Hernan-Gomez and former first-round pick Jared Culver. The final move they made was signing former 22 draft pick Leandro Bolmaro to a 4-year, $11.8 million rookie contract. On September 22, 2021, after Gerson Rosas was relieved of his president of basketball operation duties, Sachin Gupta was promoted as the new interim president of basketball operations while keeping his role as EVP of basketball operations. The Timberwolves began the season October 20th at Target Center against the Houston Rockets. The Timberwolves then finished the 2021-22 season 46-36 overall, the second most regular season win since making the conference finals in 2004. Despite Karl Anthony Towns fouling out with 11 points in 24 minutes, the Wolves beat the LA Clippers in the 7-8 play-in game to secure their spot in the 22 NBA playoffs. The Timberwolves were then eliminated by the Memphis Grizzlies in first round 4-2. On May 23, 2022, it was announced the Timberwolves had hired Tim Connolly, who previously served as the Denver Nuggets president of basketball operations, as their president of basketball operations, taking over Gupta's job. He was reportedly signed to a 5-year, $40 million contract by the Timberwolves that includes ownership equity. On July 1st, 2022, the Timberwolves traded Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, Leandro Bolmaro, and the 2022 number 22 pick, Walker Kessler, and 4 future first-round picks in exchange for 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz. This was one of the largest trades in NBA history. The Timberwolves then began the 2023 season with high expectations following the Gobert trade. They were dealt a huge blow on November 28, 2022, when Karl Anthony Towns suffered a severe calf strain that cost him 52 games. However, the injury pushed Anthony Edwards into a leadership role with his first-time All-Star selection, and he guided the team to a 42-40 finish and a play-in tournament berth. After falling to the Los Angeles Lakers in the first game, the Timberwolves secured the 8th seed with a 25-point win over the OKC Thunder. They went on to lose to the number 1 seed and eventual NBA champions, Denver Nuggets, in the first round, 4-1, which brings us all the way to where we are now, as the Minnesota Timberwolves are in the number 1 seed in the West and looking very dangerous come playoff time.
Well, guys, thank you so much for sticking along with me and Justin on this little history of the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you like our content and you're new to the channel, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment down below and tell us what you guys think of today's video. Other than that, stick around for some more videos coming out soon. We got some great ideas for some videos, and we think you guys are really going to enjoy them. But from me and Justin, we thank you guys so much for watching our videos, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.